Good afternoon, Kansas City, and welcome to Up Close and Kutural with Dr. Kara Say. Well, shout out to everybody in Kansas City this weekend. It has been a whirlwind couple of days. I would say the weekend probably started off on the Thursday. And for those of you who I haven't seen, I went around a little early wishing everyone a happy 816 day. I don't know what you guys called it a day because it actually ended up having what happening over the entire weekend. I personally just got back in town this morning. So that was the purpose of it all. Me right now, for those of you who I didn't get a chance to see, because I know this is a big deal for Kansas City, I personally am bringing it up because I love to see when the city gets together and celebrate something good, especially with everything that has been happening in the city. The discord that has been going on and just the overall dismay with the things that have been happening in the city and on the news. It was just great to see the community get together and just celebrate being from Kansas City, being a part of Kansas City. And so even though I wasn't here actually for the entire weekend, the part that I did get a chance to observe, it was great to see. And from what I did get to see on social media, from the things that people did send me, shout out to you guys. It looked like you had a great time. And I am just so happy that the city had a chance to just get together and remind each other of the great things about Kansas City. So with that being said, we are all affected by the culture, be it arts, news, entertainment, government, politics, whatever the case may be. It affects us in our everyday lives. And this is where we talk about it every first and third Sunday here on Up Close and Kutural with Dr. Kara Say. Well, today I wanted to discuss some things about Kansas City as well, and with some entertainment news as well. I know many of you have heard about the story with the Michael Orr case and lawsuit, I should say. And for those of you who are not familiar or probably have forgotten, but Michael Orr is the former, I believe he played for Arizona, but he was also the football player. He played for Mississippi, and he is the football player who was supposedly adopted by the Tuohy family and is the person that the movie The Blind Side was written about. And I put adopted in quotation marks because that is the reason behind the lawsuit that he filed. If you remember the movie The Blind Side, the movie was about this inner city kid, Michael Orr, being adopted, and I'm using the word inner city loosely because this was in Mississippi. But the movie was about Michael Orr, who grew up in the foster care system. He was in the foster care system because of issues with his family members, his mother and his father. And he pretty much grew up in the foster system. He was bounced around from either foster home to foster home or from group home to group home. And he ended up going to a very privileged high school. And he did not have any mental or any intellectual disabilities. And the issues that he was having as far as academia was simply because he was not in a stable environment, because he was moved around and was in or a part of the system. So at any rate, if you remember, Michael Orr was very large. I think he was already like 6'3" by the time he had gotten into high school. But at any rate, he ended up getting the attention of the Tui family. And he had taken an interest in football already prior to meeting them. And with the interest, or coupled with the interest of the Tui family, they got involved in his life. And I'm summing all of this up and missing a lot of pieces of it, or maybe I should just say leaving out a lot of it. Please do not take this as though this is everything that happened with them, because it's not. It's a very long story to tell. But either way, taking an interest in him, and then of course going for from the movie. I never read the book, but in them taking an interest in him, Leanne Tui, who is the mom, she ended up taking him shopping, buying him clothes, because again, he was part of the system. Taking him shopping, buying him clothes, being a mother figure to him, inviting him over to dinner at their home, and he essentially became a part of the family, a part of the Tui family. The Tui family is very wealthy. They owned a furniture store. I believe she was Leanne Tui, I believe she was an interior designer, or she designed furniture. I can't remember which one it was. And then the father owned a couple of fast food chains. He has since sold them, but either way, that gives you some idea of the wealth that they had. And so either way, and I made a mistake. They weren't in Mississippi, they were in Tennessee. Okay, still not in Mississippi. Or as far as inner city as much as Tennessee can provide. So when it came to football, he already had an interest in football. For all of you who don't know, football is a little different down south than it is, I would say, here in the Kansas City area or up north, because the concentration is, or in these areas, is pro football. You all have pro football teams. So here you think about the Chiefs, and you think about all of the other teams that you have in other areas. Down south, we didn't have all of that. Everything is about college football. So when we think about football, you think about Auburn, you think about Alabama, you think about Mississippi and Georgia. All of those are the college teams. So when it came to Michael Orr playing ball, and when you think about being recruited, it's the colleges coming to look for you. And that is what started happening to Michael Orr. And prior to the times changing, now, you know, children have the option to sign contracts and profit off of their images and also sign deals. But it wasn't like that back then. So the Tui family stepped in and they pretty much took over all of that. And if you remember from the movie, there was some controversy behind that. I can't remember the actress's name, but her role even came in as far as her coming in and discussing how the Tui family, who were both Mississippi graduates, there may have been some sort of conflict of interest in them recruiting Michael Orr. If she felt like they were recruiting Michael Orr to play for Mississippi. Well, either way, Michael Orr thought that he was being adopted by them. He did not see this as a business transaction. He felt as though he was being made a part of their family, whereas he had never had one. He had been a part of the system for so long and grew up in foster care and in group homes. So this was the first time that he had been made a part of a family. And for those of you who saw the movie, if you recall, there was this scene where Leanne Tui took him to his bedroom and this isn't verbatim, but he said something to the effect of, wow, I never had one of these. And she was like, you've never had what, your own room? And he was like, no, a bed. And that kind of, there was a pause because that was supposed to be a very emotional moment. And for most, it was a very emotional moment because anytime a child says that they have never had a bed before, that is supposed to pull at your heartstrings. And honestly, that is what that entire movie was supposed, that's what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to be one of those feel good movies and pull at your heartstrings about this inner city kid being saved from poverty in the streets by this family. So for me, it was something different. And I had a lot of very spirited conversations about that movie because for me, I personally thought that it was kind of unrealistic. I am not one who I don't readily gravitate towards movies with the savior complex at all. I just don't believe in that. So having someone like Leanne Tui show up in the hood of Memphis, Tennessee in her Mercedes with that little pellet gun in her purse, as though that was supposed to intimidate the so-called gangsters that was there, and in her showing up to protect Michael Orr, it was just unbelievable for me. So either way, I digress. That's not the point of this conversation. I just saw the movie quite differently. However, going back to the movie. So again, it was supposed to be this feel-good movie. Michael Orr felt as though they were coming in and rescuing him, and that he felt as though he was now being made a part of a family. And so he felt as though that he was being treated like they treated their own children. The Tuies already had a son and a daughter. Well, he ended up going to Mississippi, college in Mississippi, graduated, and played ball for them, had a phenomenal career, had a phenomenal pro football career. And then we fast forward to this year, and we're finding out that none of that was true. I'm not sure what transpired in February that made him look into this situation. But in February, Michael found out that he was not adopted. He found out that instead of being adopted, the Tui family did what's called a conservatorship. And in a conservatorship, it is, in essence, where you sign over all of your rights as though you're incapacitated, and someone else makes all of the decisions for you. Now, the same thing could have been accomplished with maybe a power of attorney or something to that effect, but still a power of attorney would have given him some sort of say-so in his own affairs. But the conservatorship, which is very, very interesting, what I find interesting in this situation is the route that they chose to go with him. And so the controversy along with that comes with the fact that when they decided to do this, and the argument that people are trying to make is that Michael Orr was 18 when this happened, so he couldn't have been adopted. Well, that's not true. You can adopt 18-year-olds. And people are also trying to say that, or he was too old to adopt and he was about to be an adult anyway. And then the way that the movie portrayed him, which I also had an issue with, and then also have an issue with the conservatorship, because as I stated before, and let me throw this nugget in, when you think about a conservatorship, think about Britney Spears. Britney Spears had a conservatorship. And if you think about everything that's going on with her and what went on with her before, which led up to her conservatorship, that gives you an idea of why people need conservatorship, okay? None of that was going on with Michael Orr. As I stated before, he had always been a bright kid. The only reason he was behind academically, like most kids in the system, is because of the inconsistent education that he had. Not because he could not learn, not because he wasn't capable of learning, not because there was any mental defects or mental deficiencies. It was simply because of the inconsistency and the moving from school to school or simply just not going. So I just don't understand how a judge signed off on a conservatorship when he had no mental or physical deficiency. I understand it. I understand how a lot of things happen for the wealthy in the court system. So when I say I don't see how it happened, I'm seriously being facetious. So with that being said, something transpired for Michael to go and look into this. That is when Michael found out that he was not adopted by the Tui family. Michael found out that instead of being adopted, that they instead have a conservatorship. And so now he's filing a lawsuit against the Tui family to have the conservatorship dissolved. He's asking questions as to why he was lied to and made to believe that he was adopted, and what happened to the money. He is saying that the family has profited off of saying that they are his parents. He feels that the family has profited off of using his story, which he feels that they have distorted, which they have. They have put forth this story of them adopting him, which just isn't true. And they also have made a movie about it and have made him to make statements all along that they know are not true. And then also on the back end, Michael did not profit from the movie, but the Tui family has. If you look at the documents, which I tried to pull up as well, and the interesting thing about this is that a lot of the documents that they are putting out online have not been filed in court. And if you pay attention, and I'm actually I'll tag them in the comments, they're not file stamped with the court. And what I mean by that is that this is just a lawsuit that has just been drafted. It's not filed with the court yet. And that's why I couldn't find it. And I haven't checked in a couple of days. Like I said, I just got back in town. So I will check again today and see if it has been filed. So right now, I should just say that everything is alleged. And they're just talking about it. But if you look up these court documents, when all of this first started happening, you would never see in this county court filed on this day, this lawsuit against this person and at this time was filed on this day. It's not on the court document. You will just see the lawsuit itself. So either way, Michael is hurt by this. And I brought up the bedroom scene because that lets you know what being adopted meant to him. And people are saying, well, he's 37 years old now, or 30 whatever years old now. And then also him being 18 when it happened and they couldn't adopt him, which again is not true, that shouldn't mean anything to him. Well, it did. It means something when you think someone is your parent and they aren't. So either way, the Tuies have filed a response. They have their own comeback, their own response to whatever has transpired. And it has turned into this whole thing. So this case is going to be whatever it's going to be. For me, just dissecting it, because that's what I do, being the head doctor, I am thinking about it from the standpoint of what goes on in conservatorships and guardianship and the family court system as a whole within our system and how it relates to Black people, minorities, and people of color. And so still just sticking with Michael Orr for right now, and then we'll get into Missouri. So with the Michael Orr case, when I first started out, I was telling you how Michael Orr was in high school. He was still in foster care. The Tuohys did all of this as far as him coming to their home and them taking him shopping, and the movie said teaching him about football. He already knew about football. All of these things that they were doing for him, taking him on trips and taking him shopping and having him missing for all of these hours and things at a time when he was in foster care, even got him an attorney and going through a whole court proceeding with him. These people did all of this while he was in state custody. And the state never stepped in. There was never a social worker. There was never a court person. There was never an advocate. There was never a group home staff. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. I will say from my research, and I have looked, there was never anyone who said, it's 6 o'clock. Michael has not shown back up at the group home tonight. Where is he? There was never anyone who called the police and said, this kid is missing from the group home. Where is he? Are you going to go find him? There was never anyone who said, who even looked or called anything into question. And next thing you know, this kid who ended up being worth millions of dollars has signed, who is a ward of the state now, has signed his entire life away to this family. And now he is 30-something years old. And he did not benefit off of it the way that they did. Now, mind you, which is the piece that I didn't get to, I started talking about something else. They made sure, the Tuohy family made sure that their children benefited from it. When they signed the contracts with the movie producers for The Blind Side, they were paid a sum of money. Leanne and her husband were paid a sum of money. Then their daughter was paid $250,000 and their son was paid $250,000. They did not write that in the movie for Michael Orr to be paid $250,000. They did not write in for him to be paid $250. They didn't even write in for that man to be paid $2.50. They did not write in anything for him in that movie. They did not look out for him in that movie the way that they looked out for their kids. And again, no one looked out for him, not even the state. This is how kids go missing. When you have children and people of color in the system who are charged, and the state is charged with protecting them, things like this happen. Now, this is totally different from the heinous things where children are harmed physically and in much detrimental ways. I am just saying that whether harm happens in any realm, it's not good. I am just simply pointing out how it happens and who it happens to. Now, Michael Orr is fortunate in the fact that he was adopted by a wealthy family and that they did not physically harm him, certainly not negating and certainly not diminishing what happened to him, because I do not know. I don't know how this has impacted him. I've never seen him, never talked to him. I don't know anything about him. I am just simply saying that this is how children go missing. This is how children that look like me, that look like my son and my daughters, this is how it happens. This is how children in the system are set aside because they are not paid attention to. And this is how it easily happened to Michael Orr. These are the things that happen to children in the system all the time. This is what's wrong with the system, because people with wealth and people with means can go into the system and they can, I'll use the word ask. They can ask these attorneys or these judges to do whatever, and it's done. And that's what happened. And Michael Orr was a part of the state. He was a ward of the court. There was a file on him. There was a whole docket on him. The court was aware. The very court that he was in, who signed that conservatorship, was already aware that there was a guardian ad litem somewhere that should have been a part of that proceeding. And again, I was not there in that courtroom. And this may be something that's going to be brought out. I don't know. Because I'm pretty sure it'll be something in secret, because we are dealing with judges who didn't do the right thing. And we'll get to that too. But if there was a guardian ad litem involved in this, Michael Orr's guardian ad litem, because he had one if he was a part of the state, a ward of the state, and signed this off and did not involve him in it, that's illegal. Because at the least, his parents also should have been involved in it. But then also, he was 18. And like I said before, he was not mentally incapacitated. There is no evidence of him having any mental or physical deficiency. He was a bright kid. In the paperwork that I read, and when it comes to conservatorship, the way the language is written, in order for you to get it, certain things have to be true. I will just say, Michael Orr should not have been up under, he did not meet the definition of a conservatorship. And I would just leave it at that. And perhaps that is what this court case is about. I don't know what his attorney is going to sue for. I don't know. I just say that it's very, very interesting. I will say that it is so much more. This is deep. This is very, very deep. This is not about a kid. This is not about an 18-year-old football player being adopted by this family, and they just doing a conservatorship and not adopting him. I'm telling you guys, it is not that simple. That is not what this case is about. And it's depending on how deep he wants to go into it, this is something very, very serious. And I hope that so Michael Orr's his father had passed. And I'm going to see to make sure that I answer it accurately. Let me see if I can pull up is that question on Facebook, or what platform is it on? Okay. And I'm sorry, you all, there's a comment that is on Facebook that I'm getting ready to pull up. And what I have never done before, those of you guys who are joining us, please log on to all of the social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, also KUAW.org. And there is a phone number on your screen, but also like, comment, share, and follow us across all of these social media platforms. I am going on here right now to make sure that I pull up that comment so that I answer it accurately. But Michael Orr family, and I can only answer this from the movie. Like I said, I had not read the book. Michael Orr's father had transitioned already. I don't know what age it was, so he wasn't alive when this happened. Okay, he had already transitioned. His mother was alive, and so because I believe they even had to contact the mother. There was an issue with his birth certificate, but the mother actually signed over her rights according to the movie. And I think that there should be an issue with that as well, because they gave the mother, according to the movie, they gave the mother the impression that the Tui family gave the mother the impression that they were going to adopt Michael as well. And which means that they did not let her know that they were signing a conservatorship. Because honestly, if he needed a conservatorship, then it should have been the mom instead of them. And so I don't think she knew what she was signing either. And again, this is a poor woman. I don't know her level of education. I don't know her level of understanding. I don't know. But I am just letting you know that something in the milk ain't clean. And so I believe that I don't believe that the mother is no longer with us as well. So that's very unfortunate too. But again, depending on who his attorney is and how deep that they want to dig into it, the attorney needs to get a copy of what the mother signed off over as well. So either way, the mother was the only one alive when Michael Orr signed the conservatorship paperwork with the Tui family. So with him signing over everything, the conservatorship is still in existence to this day. And I know he is asking for it to be dissolved. And I believe that they have agreed to that, or in their response, the Tui family's response, they said that they would. I don't know if that has happened yet. And maybe that'll make all of this go away. And just my opinion, I believe that that quick response is so none of the other things that I just spoke about will be dug into. And I believe that it needs to be, because that is a problem. It's a huge problem when the court system thinks that it is okay to insert itself into a family regardless of its economic or socioeconomic background, and insert its own beliefs and values into it and decide what should happen with the children, especially when it is not acting in the best interest of the child and only acting in the interest of the wealthy. And that is why so many issues with the Black community are systemic in the first place. Everything is benefiting the wealthy because that is who is in charge of these systems. And so when it comes to the family court system, it is completely different than the criminal system. It is a civil proceeding. And so when these families go before the court, you do not have the right to an attorney. You are not appointed an attorney, as you are in the criminal system. Whenever you're in criminal court, if you don't have an attorney, if you cannot afford an attorney, then the court appoints you an attorney. The family court system is a civil proceeding. You do not have the same rights. You either proceed with the court system pro se, which means on your own, or you pay for it. And honestly, you pay for what you get. And if you cannot afford an attorney, many people just let it go. And as a result, they lose their children, or they lose their rights, or their children end up being wards of the state. And wards of the state, all sorts of things happen to them, such as in the case of what happened to Michael Orr. And then when you think about just the things that are going on here in Missouri, and then here in Kansas City, and down the road in St. Louis, you have the judges and the guardian ad litem there, and you have the recorded conversations. This whole we're streaming on YouTube. You guys know that when I stop and I pause for words, that I have to make sure that I don't say certain words, so the videos won't get stricken. But there are trafficking rings going on because the guardian ad litems were in cahoots with a counseling agency down there, along with some of the judges. And all of this is public information, okay? And they, even if you look up, and I know that this has also been on the news here in Kansas City, where the state has simply just lost children, where children have either just walked off from facilities and they don't report them being missing. And I don't mean 2 or 3 kids. Last year, and I'm not going to quote it because I don't even remember the number, but I do know that there were over 10,000 children. And I know I'm grossly underestimating that number, but there are tens of thousands of children that went missing. Some walked away, left for whatever reason. But when you think about children who are part of the state, and the state is responsible for caring for them, and you have the family court system who have the audacity to remove these children from the care of their parents. I'm not speaking about those cases where the children needed to be removed. I'm not speaking about those at all. This is not a catch-all situation, okay? So if you don't have the range to have this conversation, then please don't involve yourself in it, all right? I am specifically speaking about those cases where the children were removed without cause, okay? So in those cases, how dare they remove kids without cause, then put them in these situations, and then they don't even take care of them. And then they put them in more harmful situations than the ones that they removed them from. And then when that happens, nothing transpires to bring them accountable for it. The guardian ad litems are not held accountable for it. The judges are not held accountable for it. The group homes are not held accountable for it. The foster parents are not held accountable for it. And I'm talking about the ones who did wrong, okay? So something needs to change about that. And that is a big part of the conversation today as well, because there is a big problem with what is going on even here in Missouri itself. And I cannot speak about all of the counties personally, but I have gotten a lot of feedback from as far as Indiana. I know you guys have heard me over all year, really, all the way back to last year, speak about the family court system and just the corrupt things that are going on. I can't even say have been, that continue to go on, specifically in Clay County. Clay County court system is very corrupt. And then we see things that happen either with, Ralph Yarl, and tragically what happened to him. Thank God, he survived and he's okay. And we see things where Black women go missing, and then they aren't believed, but they show up running down the street seeking refuge because they've been locked in a basement, and they're running down the street with chains on them, or Black women show up in the river in blue barrels, unalive, because of the things that have happened. And it is because when we go missing, no one pays attention and no one takes us serious. And these things are happening in Clay County. Now, I am addressing all of the county because it's not just a Clay County thing. It is not. I have had people come to me, like I said, as far as Indiana, and even in Illinois. And I'm not just talking about families. I'm talking about private investigators. I've even had other attorneys. And I have gotten very cautious about who I talk to, because one, I want to vet people. And at first, when I started on this crusade to just not even bring awareness to the situation, but also to get people to get more involved in it and bring a stop to it, I was under the impression that, I guess I was a little naive, thinking that whoever came to me with a story, to just trust them 100%, and that they would automatically be telling the truth. Well, I found out later on that some people were coming to me with information to get information. Now, granted, there are some people who get involved in this or who come to me for information and who don't want to get involved or take it any further because they're scared. They are afraid because it's a big thing to call judges corrupt. It's a big thing to say that the Clay County Sheriff's Department is biased against Black women. It is a big thing to say that Judge O'Hara and Commissioner Page Roberts are racist, and that Deputy Harmon is racist. It's a big thing, and that the guardian ad litem, Robert Gordon at Gordon Law Firm, and Lee Summit is racist. It's a big thing to say that, but I say it and I stand by it. And that is my opinion and from my personal experiences. And so everyone is not like that. So when it comes to those types of things, sometimes they will back away because it gets too high. And I had to learn to understand that, because in dealing with this, you have people who will back away because they're scared, or you have people who seek information because they are working for those very same people. When I tell you that there are people who will show up and follow me, that they will make phone calls or threatening statements or things of that nature, all of the above has happened. But for me, all it does is galvanize me, because if I was not on the right track, if what I was saying about these people was not true, then there would not be a reason for anyone to have to come after me about anything. But I am passionate about Black women. I'm passionate about women and children. I am passionate about my children. I'm passionate about my child. And I am passionate about getting people out of our community who do not benefit us. And Judge Alicia O'Hara in Clay County does not. Commissioner Page Roberts, she does not. And guardian ad litem, Robert Gordon, he does not. The Clay County Sheriff's Department, they are corrupt. And there is also the issue with how This information is presented into the public, and there is going to be a class action lawsuit filed on Monday morning, tomorrow morning, and information that will be linked for you guys, any of you who have been harmed by any of these people or the Clay County system, period, for you all to get involved in it as well. But with that being said, the Missouri CaseNet system, if you Google it, Missouri CaseNet, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, CaseNet houses all of the court system information, everything from your traffic tickets all the way up to major felonies. It houses everybody's business, basically. And so just in speaking with the community at large, I wanted to get information as far as how valuable CaseNet is and how it's used and who uses it. I spoke with employers. I found out that employers use CaseNet just like they use social media. When they hire people, they will check to see what their driving record looks like. They will check to see if they owe child support. They will check to see if they have garnishment, along with criminal records. They check to see maybe if they have any restraining orders. And because, employers don't want process servers showing up at their places of employment. They want to make sure that they have people who are coming to work and who are focused on their work and not on whether or not their crazy ex is going to come up or, whatever the case may be. They check them. I got all sorts of reasons why they check CaseNet. So, and then they also check their social media to see what sort of information is on there, because also in them checking social media and CaseNet, they know that the public can do it as well. So whether you want to accept it or not, you are a reflection of not only yourself and your families, but also who you work for. So it's very important. And so also when it comes to your landlord, they will check it as well, because they're looking to see, okay, well, can this person, I see what their check says and I see what their bank statement says about the money they make, but let me check CaseNet to see if they have some garnishment coming out somewhere else, because that's going to take away from them being able to pay their rent every month. Or let me see if maybe somebody has filed a restraining order against them they aren't telling me about. Because there are things on there that can tell about your character and your history and things that you just don't even think about. And then also even just talking to some of my friends, which actually is something that I never even thought about. There are women that I've spoken to who check CaseNet for to get dirt on the guys that they're dating. And I just never thought about that. And I guess it makes sense. So, point being, there's a lot of information on CaseNet. And it had me to dig into who puts this information in CaseNet. And so, CaseNet, the information from CaseNet comes from the court system. Not everyone can put information in CaseNet, not even an attorney. All an attorney can do is file paperwork. They have the capability of logging into CaseNet to file their appearances for court on your behalf, to just say, hey, I'm this person's attorney. They can file paperwork, which still has to be accepted by the court, which means the court clerks. But they don't have the capacity to go in and change information, meaning they can't go in and say that this person was found guilty of this crime. You and I, or an attorney, can't go into CaseNet and say, and change a person's court date. You and I, or an attorney, can't go into CaseNet and erase an entire crime that happened. You and I, or an attorney, can't go into CaseNet and say this ticket never happened. Or we can't go. You can also go into CaseNet and delete an entire file. Who can are the judges and the clerks. And what's interesting is not only can it be changed, but it can also be deleted. The one thing that I haven't, and it actually just hit me, research is the company itself and how to look up records of it changing. But anyway, I say all of that to say this. And with information that I have found, along with Clay County, the clerks in the offices that I just mentioned have purposely gone, from my own experience, go into CaseNet, change court dates, they change people's hearings, they change people's personal information, they change pertinent information for their own benefit and for the benefit of the judges like O'Hara and Commissioner Payne, which ethically they are not supposed to do. So if you or if any of them are able to go into CaseNet and just able to change information because they feel like it, or take it out and turn it into something else, or move it around, how can you trust it? How reliable is CaseNet? So when your employer looks at CaseNet and it says, I'm not going to give you this job because you have this restraining order against you, or I'm not going to give you this job because you were convicted of this crime, but they don't tell you that, but they saw this on CaseNet, and you're wondering why you didn't get that job. It might be because somebody went into CaseNet, one of those little clerks went into CaseNet and changed their information. Something needs to happen. And that is why this class action lawsuit is being filed. That is why these things are happening. So there are going to be some changes going on in Missouri. And I advise you to not only contact Mayor Lucas, you need to contact the city council. And there's evidence behind all of this. And any of you who have experienced this, especially those of you who have children involved with Alicia O'Hara and Commissioner Payne and Robert Gordon and all of these people, then please reach out and contact me. The federal courts know about it. The Department of Justice knows about it. Governor Parsons knows about it. The Attorney General knows about it. There are a lot of people know about it, and we can go into detail about it later. Federal lawsuits will be filed in the morning, but please, by all means, reach out. And I do want you to know that you have the support, and there are many people, even people who are in other states who have moved from Missouri because of what these people have done. And a lot of things are starting to change behind it. But again, please pay attention to the things that are happening and the systems that cause these things to happen to the people around you, the things that have been happening for years to us, to minorities, to Black people, to people of color, especially when it comes to us and Black women and our children. And just reach out to us here online, call the number. You know, you can always email me, sadtherapist@gmail.com, or dr.caresay@bronzealert.net. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to Up Close and Kutural with Dr. Caresay. And I will see you guys on the first Sunday in September. Bye.